Hi guys, today we're going to do experiment 4. We are going to learn purification and crystallization process. The crystallization process involves preparation of solution of the impure sample, filtration of the hot solution, cooling of the hot saturated solution, separation and drying of crystals. First, we are going to learn the purification of benzoic acid by crystallization. Benzoic acid is a colorless crystalline solid and it is an aromatic carboxylic acid. Our aim here is to prepare crystals of pure benzoic acid from an impure sample.
Materials required: crude sample of benzoic acid, distilled water, cold water, 250 ml beakers, funnel, filter paper, glass rod, spatula, dropper, fluted filter paper, test tube, stand with clamp, trough, wire gauze, tripod stand, and a Bunsen burner. Procedure: preparation of solution of the impure sample. Take about 150 ml of distilled water in a beaker. Boil the water in the beaker over the Bunsen burner. In another beaker, take about 3 grams of crude sample of benzoic acid. To this, using a dropper, gradually add a minimum quantity of boiling water, just sufficient to dissolve benzoic acid. Stir using the glass rod. If required, heating can be done to dissolve benzoic acid. Filtration of the hot solution. Place a fluted filter paper in the funnel and clamp the funnel to the stand. Place a beaker under the funnel. Pour the solution into the funnel over the glass rod and collect the filtrate in the beaker. The insoluble impurities are left on the filter paper. Cooling the hot saturated solution. Let the filtrate come to room temperature by itself. Cool it by placing the beaker in the trough containing cold water. As the solution cools, white crystals of benzoic acid begin to separate. Separation and drying of crystals. Clamp the funnel in which a filter paper is fixed to the stand. Place a beaker under the funnel and separate the crystals by filtration. Wash the crystals with cold water. Place the crystals on a filter paper which soaks up the solution. Transfer the crystals to another filter paper and dry them by pressing gently between the folds of the filter paper. Now transfer the crystals into a dry test tube. The crystals of benzoic acid are opaque white. Precautions: cool the hot saturated solution without disturbing it. Remove the insoluble impurities by filtration.
Second, we are going to learn the crystallization of copper 2 sulfate experiment.
The first part demonstrates how to obtain copper 2 sulfate crystals from a hot saturated copper 2 sulfate. To obtain copper 2 sulfate crystals from a hot saturated copper 2 sulfate solution, heat the copper 2 sulfate solution to boiling and evaporate the solvent until the solution is saturated. Add a stirrer bar to the solution when heating to prevent flash boiling. To test whether the copper 2 sulfate solution reaches saturation, dip a glass rod into the saturated solution and then take it out. If the solution adhered on the glass rod solidifies rapidly, it means the solution is saturated. When the copper 2 sulfate solution reaches saturation, turn off the heater and place the beaker that contains the solution on the bench. Remove the stirrer bar from the hot solution with forceps. Cover the beaker with a clean watch glass. Let the solution cool down slowly without disturbance. If it cools too quickly, The crystals obtained will be very small in size. If the bench top is not made of heat-proof material that can withstand high temperature, place the hot beaker on a heat-resistant mat or ceramic tile. It is to avoid damaging the bench top. Put on gloves while handling the hot glassware to avoid heat burn. When the solution cools down to room temperature, crystallization of copper 2 sulfate is completed. If there is no crystal formed after cooling the solution to room temperature, the following methods may be used to induce crystallization. Scratch the inner wall of the beaker with a glass rod. Place the solution in an ice water bath. Add a tiny copper 2 sulfate crystal. Collecting and washing the crystals. First, use a spatula to scrape the crystals off from the inner wall of the beaker. And then collect the crystals from the mixture by suction filtration. Finally, collect the crystals on a clean dish or on a piece of filtered paper.
The next experiment, the purification of sodium chloride from rock salt. The procedure of the experiment. Saturated solution of impure sodium chloride is prepared and filtered. Take a round bottom flask and add solid sodium chloride into it. A delivery tube and thistle funnel is attached to it. The other end of delivery tube is fed into a container where saturated solution of sodium chloride is taken. Concentrated sulfuric acid was added into the round bottom flask through thistle funnel. The hydrochloric gas passes through delivery tube into saturated solution of impure sodium chloride. The pure crystallized sodium chloride is formed. When precipitation is complete, filter the solution to get pure sodium chloride crystals.